in Oregon. This is NBC 16 News at 5.
State lawmakers are taking action in Salem on police reform, with crowd control tactics having increasing focus. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Jacqueline Mazur. Well, this week, state leaders addressed the next steps for police reform and accountability. Our Kelsey Christensen joins us live in the studio to break it down for us. Kelsey?
Well, Jacqueline, a joint committee co-chaired by Senator James Manning is looking at how police departments handle crowd control, like at the protests we're seeing nationwide. Taking a look at this video from social media of protesters clashing with Springfield police this week. You can see two people being drugged by police, one officer seemingly hitting a protester. Senator Manning says this needs to be investigated. Going forward with reform, he says it will vary based on local community needs.
I, for one, don't see that there's a broad brushstroke that's going to satisfy everything. It won't. But in cases where we have to have statewide standards, that is what I am looking at.
The senator says an example of a statewide standard would be a ban on chokeholds. Make sure you stick with us as we take a deeper look into that video that you just saw with Senator Manning coming up at 5:30. Jacqueline.
All right, Kelsey, thank you. Well, we're now hearing from the NAACP, who call the incidents in Springfield unacceptable. In a statement, the NAACP says, quote, "We ask that the SPD immediately stop the harassment of peaceful protesters and their supporters. We demand the SPD work to de-escalate community divisions, not to add to them by pitting one portion of the community against another." Well, new tonight, Eugene Police is asking for help in identifying a suspect and victim in an assault during Saturday night's riots near 7th and Oak Street. EPD released this video where we can see someone in a red shirt hitting a young boy in the face while riding his bike. Police say both the suspect and victim then left the area. EPD also released these two photos. Police say the man on the left wearing the white hat is the suspect. The photo on the right is the man who's seen with the suspect in the video. Anyone with information or any additional videos that could help in this ongoing investigation is asked to contact the Eugene Police Department. Well, this weekend could set a new tone for recent protests in Portland as things were calm last night. But was that just temporary as Oregon State Police take over for federal officers outside the federal courthouse? Portland police say the largest crowds dispersed by 1 a.m. this morning and that protesters were policing those within the crowd exhibiting bad behavior. They say a few protesters put out fires set by others in the crowd and stopped them from climbing the fence. Police say no arrests were made. The Portland Police Bureau says it paid more than $5 million in overtime pay while policing protests. As of July 22nd, which is the last pay period, Portland reached more than $5.3 million in overtime pay. Back in June, Police Chief Chuck Lavelle said not all the costs that the department is facing are financial. He says the protests hampered the Bureau's ability to focus on their primary work, including calls to service. Governor Kate Brown announced today the creation of the Racial Justice Council. It's an advisory group for the governor focusing on criminal justice reform, police accountability, health equity, housing, and more. The council will also make recommendations for the governor's 2021-2023 budget. Brown says the council will be made up of members with diverse backgrounds while concentrating on Black and Indigenous people of color. Well, protesters are planning to gather at the New Hope Christian College this evening to call for the removal of the cross that sits up on their campus hill. People have posted on social media saying the cross represents a racist symbol stemming from historic events. NBC 16's Angelina Dixon joins us now live outside the New Hope Christian College, where protesters plan to gather for the next hour. Angelina.
Jacqueline, so far supporters have gathered here. We have about probably a little over 20 now. The college president, Wayne Cordero, says the cross is not a racist symbol. Instead, he says it represents the symbol of the Christian religion and the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Now, historically in the 20s, the Ku Klux Klan burned crosses on Skinner Butte in Eugene. In the 60s, a cross for NHCC stood on Skinner Butte as a Veterans War Memorial, according to the school website. And the cross was later moved here on campus. But Cordero wants to make sure there's no confusion with history and now. He says the cross does not represent any kind of racism. Cordero says legally the cross sits on private property and nobody is allowed on campus right now unless they are checked in at the gate and are given permission to come in. But Cordero just wants to make sure that the community comes together. Now, Eugene Police say they are aware of what's happening and have a plan in case anything gets out of hand, and we'll check in back in later. For now, reporting live at the New Hope Christian College, I'm Angelina Dixon.
All right, thanks for that report, Angelina. Well, time now to take a first look at weather. Heather Melendez joins us now. Now, Heather, it seems slightly cooler out there today, but is this the cool down we've been waiting for?
Yes, and we have another one just around the corner. But take a look at this graphic, Jacqueline. We are down 10 degrees here in Eugene, 9 in the Umpqua Valley. So it's really those in the valley regions. They're used to trapping in daytime highs, and now they're just slightly cooler. But taking a look outside, lots of sunshine today, a little bit of cloud coverage. We had morning clouds. It's now moving on to inland, so we managed to reach upper 80 temperatures, 87 here in Eugene, 90 in the Umpqua Valley. Just another beautiful day. And if you're wondering why are we cooling down, well, it's because we do have another low pressure system, a cold front pushing in cooler air. Those up in Canada are receiving some rain and moisture, but here tons of cloud coverage will start to increase in the overnight hours into tomorrow. We'll wake up with some cloudy skies, even cooler conditions. We can expect some low 80s for us here in Eugene, 89 in Roseburg and North Bend, just 67. But again, we do have a second cold front moving in. I'll let you know when to expect that in my full weather forecast. Jacqueline?
All right, Heather, thank you. Many of us looking forward to that for sure. Well, the Oregon Health Authority reports 373 new confirmed and presumptive cases and 6 new deaths. Oregon has seen nearly 18,500 cases and has 322 deaths. OHA says 10.3% of the confirmed and presumptive cases since the pandemic started have been people under the age of 18. Multnomah reported the most cases today with 77, followed by Washington, Marion, Umatilla, and Morrow. That's 226 cases in those 5 counties alone. Multnomah still has the most cases in Oregon with more than 4,300. In our region now, Lane County has 503. Health officials reported 19 new cases. 3 of those cases are linked with long-term care facilities in Eugene. 1 resident at Green Valley Rehabilitation Health Center and 1 resident and 1 staff member at Waterford Grand Assisted Living and Memory Care. 52 people are infected out of the total cases reported. 5 are hospitalized. Well, new information from Oregon State University's TRACE program shows serious spread of coronavirus in part of northeastern Oregon. The program tested a group of residents in Hermiston for COVID-19, and 17% of the samples came back positive. This is the highest rate in the program so far. NBC 16's Stephanie Rothman spoke with the project leader and Hermiston city manager about the results. Stephanie, what did they discover?
Well, through door-to-door testing in more than 30 neighborhoods in the city, 41 people tested positive for the virus. And with context of the town and how the virus spreads, OSU scientists estimate nearly 3,000 people are currently infected in the city. TRACE stands for Team-Based Rapid Assessment of Community-Level Coronavirus Epidemics. The project began in April in Corvallis. It later expanded to Bend and Newport, and then Hermiston. An Oregon Health Authority told researchers to go to Hermiston to investigate after recent spikes. The project leader says the most recent testing in the city is shocking.
And when these results come back, I do think it's better to know than to not know. But certainly it's sobering, and my heart goes out to Hermiston.
He urges everyone in Hermiston to take these results seriously and follow CDC guidelines, of course, including a face mask, washing your distance, and washing your hands is always encouraged. Right now, Umatilla, Multnomah, and Washington make up more than half of the total number of cases in the state. Umatilla has the most cases per capita. And Governor Kate Brown, she says Umatilla County is now in a baseline stay-home order status. That means they had to scale back reopening plans as they were one of the counties currently on a watch list. Next at 5:30, I discuss the dire situation and why city leaders think Hermiston has had such a significant outbreak. Jacqueline?
All right, Stephanie, thanks for that report tonight. Well, the outdoors has been a popular spot for Oregonians throughout the pandemic. Recreation officers at the Willamette National Forest say up the McKenzie Valley, their flagship campgrounds are packed nearly every day. The same goes for nearby dispersed or primitive campsites. John Erickson at the McKenzie River Ranger Station has some tips for those campgoers.
To practice good food storage and keeping clean camps. That will do a lot to help make sure that we don't have animals accessing food.
Erickson says hiking trails and trailheads are also seeing some heavy traffic in the McKenzie Ranger District, like the trail to Proxy Falls. As for parking at places like Blue Pool, last weekend, Erickson says 200 vehicles were lined up. Coming up next on NBC 16 at 5, the country's top coronavirus experts testify on Capitol Hill, the debate on how the nation is responding to the coronavirus pandemic. Plus, we are tracking down Category 1 Hurricane Isaias as it heads northwest towards the Bahamas. What states are preparing for a potential hit over the next few days?